morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I'm Evanthia Hatziminaoglou. I'm an astronomer at the European Southern Observatory in Garching, Germany. And since the beginning of the pandemic, I have been bringing astronomy in the classrooms in Europe and elsewhere via a number of initiatives such as Habla con ellas, Mujeres en Astronomía, Talk to Them, Women in Astronomy, Skype a Scientist, and similar.
These initiatives bring teachers in touch with scientists, some of them specifically astronomers, to arrange for presentations in their classrooms. I'm usually targeting the age group between 10 and 18 years old and talk about a variety of topics, including astronomy in general, specific topics on request, my own work, scientific careers, or women in astronomy.
The purpose of such initiatives is to give the opportunity to these young people, boys and girls alike, to get to know what science, astronomy in this particular case, is all about, to give them the opportunity to speak to a scientist and to encourage them towards a scientific path if this is what they want.
The initiative Habla con ellas, for instance, brings female astronomers and engineers into the classrooms in an effort to promote women in science and technology. Why is that? Well, according to UNESCO, nowadays there are more girls at schools worldwide than ever before.
However, they don't always get the same opportunities in education, and they are held back by social norms, biases, cultures, or tradition.
Girls are particularly underrepresented in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics education and hence careers as an immediate result of gender stereotypes. Gender stereotypes are generalized views or preconceptions about the characteristics or the roles that should be possessed or performed by women and men. Boys like blue and play with cars, girls like pink and play with dolls, kind of thing. The problem is that such preconceptions are harmful where they limit people's capacity to develop their abilities, to pursue the professional careers of their liking, and ultimately live their lives the way they want. Research has shown that gender is a central factor that children use to compare themselves to others from a very young age. STEM gender stereotypes, in fact, emerge in childhood. Already at the age around 4, children show less support for counter-stereotypical career choices. For example, a girl that wants to be a pilot.
By the end of elementary school, most children already hold adult-like stereotype ability, which is later reinforced in adolescence, for example, by the lack of female STEM teachers, and persists into adulthood, spreading into the workplace, into the society in general, ultimately impacting the representation of women in the fields of science and technology.
The first step when I enter virtually a classroom is to address prejudices and preconceptions. This is what most kids expect me to look like. And then they're surprised. Oh, but you look normal. Do I? So not all scientists are old men in white robes? Well, no. As an astronomer, do you always work during the night and sleep during the day? They probably see me as a Tasmanian devil or something. In fact, I mostly work in the day and sleep at night. Have you worked in Area 51? No. Well then, what do you do?
That's when I invite them to join me for a voyage among the stars. I talk to them about recent discoveries, about my own work, about how it is to be a scientist and a mother. And then the questions come, plenty of them.
I will start with the astronomical ones, some of which reflect misconceptions, confusion, or simply and understandably limited exposure to the topic. Some questions are also very suggestive of the damage memes and information from dubious sources can cause. How did Pluto get smaller? I wonder how this piece of information was communicated to them. Why do some people say that the Earth is flat? Well, I think that unfortunately this indicates that the educational system might be failing somewhere. What is the most interesting thing you have discovered? Here I have to explain to them that discoveries don't happen overnight. I need their time, and maybe one day I will have something really cool to report. And then there are these questions that are so loaded with preconceptions and stereotypes. How can you take care of your children while you do this job? So, because I'm a mother, I can't have a career? And would they ask the same question to a man? I wonder. How did you experience leaving your family behind to work in a different country? The word that comes to mind here is support. Families are there to provide support, and so is school and the social surrounding, or at least so it should be. Are you the only woman in the observatory? No. There are many of us in various positions, all doing a wonderful job. In case there is inequality between men and women in your work environment, what do you think this is due to? In case. Interesting that there are still doubts out there. Also, I was never asked how I thought we could fix it. Has a new generation already given up? Did you feel at any time in your life that your work was undervalued because you're a woman? Maybe. But there are so many other things that can cause people to be undervalued. Age, ethnicity, color, religion, disabilities, you name it. We are on the right track to fix all this, but there is still a whole lot to be done.
This brings me to the last part of this talk, namely the difficulties encountered during this endeavor.
Since the start of the pandemic, I have been working mostly from home, and so has everybody else around me. This means that we're all competing for bandwidth. And if things can go wrong, they will. Trust me.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? I can hear you, but I can't see you. Oh, now I can see you, but I can't hear you. Oh, there is so much feedback. Oh my God.
Eventually, things will fix themselves, and then I can start with my presentation. But then comes this moment when I'm no longer sure whether I'm still connected, especially if everyone is muted with their cameras off. It's a bit like talking to myself, but about topics I normally wouldn't.
And before I realize, it's time for questions, so many of them, which is wonderful, or it would be under normal circumstances. Now it's a bit difficult. Some people use the raise hand feature, some other people talk at the same time. Sometimes the teachers use the chat function to type the questions, but most of the times they feel like they're coded. I have trouble understanding what they mean. The bottom line is that I need the direct contact with my audience. I need to be able to look at them, and I need them to look at me when we have this communication. It's a direct link which is now broken.
Teachers face their own difficulties. When in the classroom, they have to connect laptops, screens, microphones, loudspeakers, and persuade them to collaborate. They have to maintain the order in the class, motivate their students to ask questions, and play the role of the coordinator at the Q&A session. And they have to do everything within very strict time limits, as often classrooms have to be disinfected before and after each lecture. Finally, students also face difficulties. Those attending from home might get distracted by things happening around them. Those at school have to follow the safety instructions, something that limits the time for interaction. At times, they get frustrated or lose concentration when the connection breaks. Sometimes they come to the microphone to ask their question, but I cannot always understand them through the mask. Sometimes the way their question was written in the chat is not exactly what they meant, and sometimes my answer is not satisfactory, but there is very little chance for an exchange of a few sentences that would fix these issues on the spot if I were present in the classroom, for example. Overall, they are happy they were given this opportunity, at least judging from the invariably positive feedback that I get, but they too would prefer a more direct interaction with less constraints. If I were to summarize, I would say that some good things have come out of the current situation. Virtual talks and lectures are now routine. Scientists have become a lot more accessible, and the link can be maintained. Astronomy has also gained. By bringing astronomy into the classrooms, we get the opportunity to break all sorts of stereotypes, inform and fight against misinformation, and present students with options that sometimes they didn't even know existed. Finally, by bringing astronomy in the classroom, we can strengthen the link to the public, expose the contribution of astronomy to society, explain the connection to other sciences, and ignite interest among young people, boys and girls alike.
Before I finish, I would like to thank all these wonderful children for their genuine interest and all of you for your time and attention. Bye.